I'm back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetsBirds. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. The Iron Man continuing his unbroken streak of appearances with a pencil.
Never missed.
Less. Using a pencil, Andy.
I am the Lou Gehrig of the Brown Bag Bets. I have, 10 years of these shows? Oh, more than that, because we don't do the weekends. Boy, yeah, it would take a long time to get 3,000 straight shows in. I don't think that's happening, because I got to go on vacation in Maine here eventually. So, and I don't think my wife is going to let me do the show. Maybe I'll do it from the beach. Who knows? We'll see what she says. But yes, Alex is back. It was a nice little conversation yesterday with JD. Again, he was on vacation. He was in Mexico, just doing it from his hotel room. Yes, Burns ejected early. My most prophetic thing I did say was my numbers liked Siwoo Kim, but I can't bet him at this course. James was in full agreement, which made me feel better. And Siwoo Kim is like 6 over par through half a dozen holes here, or a dozen holes. So I feel it's like when you don't bet a team that you like, your numbers it makes you feel like you actually won a bet already, because you're not losing that money eventually. And it looks like any Siwoo bets are dead in the water. So I did mention we were going to have a guest today. And it's not Alex. Alex is if you don't recognize him, he's a full-timer. He was just off yesterday for reasons unknown. He's back. I'm always here. And we're bringing in a guy. I actually was on his podcast a couple weeks ago. Canadian fella, which I like because I've made more Canadian friends on gambling Twitter than I care to admit.
Canadians and Australians. They're big in this game.
It's like a full thing. So without further ado, Mr. Matt Russell of The Window podcast, The Window, that's where you take your ticket when you win. That's fine. I haven't got to do that in quite a while. I haven't made a physical bet. How you doing today, Matt?
I'm great, man. I'm happy to be on Brown Bag Bets. My mom packed some Lunchables for me, so this is a really big day. And there's a snack pack in there as well, so I'm going to get into that after we have our little conversation here. But yeah, man, happy to be on. I think I'm the guy who pinch hit for Lou Gehrig in the 9th inning after, we were made sure that he had, gotten his ABs. It's a 10-run game. And is there a guy around who plays first base? Oh, Matt. Sure. Okay, get in here, pal.
Just keep your foot right there.
Matt's in. And of course, like I mentioned, you're Canadian, you like hockey. I get a lot of shit actually about that. I've had at least a dozen people you're from Minnesota, Andy. You don't like it's not like I don't like hockey. I just don't handicap hockey. I don't watch hockey on the regular because it overlaps so much with, football and college basketball, and I'm just too busy for it. I have been to a hockey game. I've been to a hockey bar. So, okay. I mean, that, and I do. And you know what? In college, I lived with some guys on the hockey team. We split a house. I've been to hockey parties. So I'm kind of a hockey guy. I don't handicap it. I don't bet it. And, it's a fun, we did baseball the other day. It was super fun talking about a sport I don't get a lot into, some fun insights. And, today, a little hockey talk. People have been begging for it.
Yeah. If you've ever been to Canada, you've been to a hockey bar. So, that's, they're literally all of them. Even if it's loaded full of suits having meetings and the hockey game's on, everything stops. So, I would have expected state of hockey. What does Andy need me for? He's right in the middle of it. But, here we are. Happy to be on.
Yeah, I know. We got the Gophers and shit. I think we have 5 Division I hockey teams just in state. And I went to Canada to go to a baseball game once. That's kind of backwards. And honestly, you're from the area, it's not a good stadium. It was not all that enjoyable of an experience, but I did enjoy my time in Canada. I should have had some hockey while I was up there. Where are we in the season as far as I always have to ask Alex this about basketball. How big of a chunk have we gotten through so far?
Yeah, I had to sort of remind myself of that yesterday. I was sort of looking going, oh, okay, we're actually pretty close-ish to the middle of the season, right? So we've got mid-50s this time around instead of 82 games. So you're sort of trying to match up the calendar, which obviously is going to last a little bit longer than it normally does. Normally we roll right into the playoffs in April. That's going to be late May, but obviously the shortened season here, which to be honest with you is probably why I'm on here, because I don't actually historically do a ton of regular season hockey betting, because I do it a lot like you would do it if you were a little bit more interested in hockey, because I'm like you, man. I'm like football, basketball, and then sort of, New Year's hits with football, and it's like, okay, what's going on? Conference season in college hoops. And then once March Madness is over, it's like, okay, now I can focus on hockey, because to be honest with you, and we're going to talk about hockey sort of big picture stuff here in a second, I think, but messing around with overtime, 3-on-3 especially, and shootouts, like as if hockey wasn't enough of just a general coin flip festival out here, you get into that and it's just like, why am I betting on this type of stuff, right? But so when you get into the playoffs, at least we're talking overtimes where it's 5-on-5 overtime. It's a little bit more, legit, and you can actually extrapolate the numbers that build up over the course of the season into playoffs. And obviously, you've got series line betting and all of that kind of thing. So you can make a little bit more hay than just kind of sitting back and praying that just the coin doesn't fall the right way once we hit a shootout.
And I think that was kind of a good segue into my first question. You start to think about all that stuff, and I always like to start from the basics of the whole thing's played on ice. Everyone's on skates. Right. It starts on ice, and by the end of each period, that ice is beat to hell. You've got this little tiny rubber puck. It's not smooth. You've got people coming in and out all the time. There's no stoppages for things. It's just absolutely outrageous. I mean, so how do you start to, kind of attack something with that much kind of inherent variance? Right. And, B, how do you live with that?
That's a great question. And honestly, if you don't have the sort of stomach to understand variance, hockey betting is not for you, especially in the regular season. Because, think about how we talk about the oblong football, right? And the crazy bounces that might take. Well, most of the time when the football hits the ground, the play's over. Hockey, the puck is on the ground or on the ice all the time, and it is bouncing in all kinds of crazy ways. So you have to understand that, it's not going to work out for you a lot of the time. So fundamentally, what I'm looking for is, obviously, how do you win games? Well, you score more goals than the other team. But because, as you guys know, goals can come at some crazy situations and crazy times, and one goal means so much more in hockey than it does everything else, right? You can get past a fluke touchdown in football. Getting past a fluke goal, really tough in hockey. And so I don't necessarily care how many goals are being scored, what your goal differential necessarily is. I want to go one step back, right? I want to go, like football. I want to go to yardage, yards per play, that kind of thing. I don't care about touchdowns necessarily because that's not particularly predictive. I want to go to the root. So the root in hockey is, how do you score the goals, right? Well, first things first, having an man advantage over a team, a power play, is a pretty good way to score a goal. But we can't really predict how many power plays a team's going to get game to game, and whether or not they're going to actually score on that power play, because around average of a power play efficiency is 20%. A really good team. Right now, we're still early in the season relatively, so we've got 30% out there, but that's going to drop. And so you need 4 power plays just to get sort of a mathematical range where you might expect a goal. So for me, it's 5-on-5 even strength play. And are you creating scoring chances and high danger scoring chances, which is a key sort of counting metric when it comes to hockey handicapping. And then the other thing, which is a little bit sort of deeper, if you think of, VORP or XFIP in baseball, right? Which just sort of for baseball goes way over my head in a lot of cases. Expected goals is this sort of we're bringing decimals into the mix when it comes to handicapping hockey. How did they get 1.56 expected goals? I'm not even really sure, but how did he get 3.14 XFIP? Don't really know. And so, but these are the numbers that at even strength I want to know. So I can try to figure out, okay, this team won 4-2 or has won a lot of games 4-2, but what was the level of luck in there? And it doesn't just rhyme with puck. Puck luck is such a term, not because of the rhyming, because it exists in hockey. Yeah. And so I want to know who's getting the more high danger scoring chances relative to their opponent and who's getting the better of the expected goal share, right? Obviously over 50%, really good. Not under 50%, not so much. And then try to make that predictive going forward. And then that's when the headaches start, because you realize it is, but it also kind of isn't when it comes to hockey.
Yeah, and it's the people with soccer. You'll see someone, they'll post this was a bad beat, and they'll post the flash score screenshot of that their team had 9 more shots on goal. And that's where, people started to get into XG, because it's a shot on goal, what the criteria is doesn't mean it was a good shot or it had more than you can have shots on goal that have less than 0.5% of chance of being a goal. And there's some really shitty shots on goal in soccer that they just, because of the rules, they counted as a shot on goal. Doesn't mean they had quality chances. I like what you're saying with dangerous scoring chances or high danger scoring situations. It's just like, it does remind me a lot of soccer. It's just, when you do get into the variance of like the three, and it's funny too, because I don't watch a ton of hockey during the season, again, because of the overlap. I make a point of watching playoff hockey because it's just so much better. But I do and it's funny because it probably pisses off more hockey handicappers than I can imagine. But like the 3-on-3 overtime, that's way more fun. They should play I said that to somebody, they were mad. I said they should play the whole game 3-on-3. Maybe get rid of the goalies. Like, let's just have some high scoring goal. And he's like, well, that's not how it works. I'm like, I don't know, but it's a lot of fun. But at the same time, it's such a, like the goalies, and they had quotes when they switched to this. Like there's some goalies that just, they hate it. They hated it. It makes them look stupid. It's such a wide open, it's such a wide open, action when you do get to the 3-on-3, and it does become more of a coin flip where honestly, and if you bet more underdogs, I guess you probably like that because it does turn it more into a coin flip and you can get lucky in a 3-on-3 situation, cash one of those. And I don't know, I do follow some people that bet hockey, and I mean, it's just like any other sport too with the you talk about variance and bad beats. Like the Rangers game the other day had 3 goals before we get to the 3-minute mark of the first period, stayed under.
Yeah, sure.
Shit happens in every sport like this.
Yeah, and honestly, like there's way more bad beats in the totals game only because of the way that we frame it. Like it's not even a bad beat. Listen, I'm the king of bad beats when it comes to like football and basketball and that sort of thing. But when it comes to hockey, it's like, no, that was just hockey. Like, was that a bad beat? Like, yeah, but like kind of comes with the territory. Right? Like Tampa Bay the other night goes to Dallas. They're minus 200 road favorites. Dallas outplays them the entire game, but Tampa Bay scores a power play goal in the first period, and just Dallas can't beat Andrei Vasilevsky, who is by far the best goaltender in the league, but like feel free to give up a goal at some point, Andre. And, you're just sitting there going like, was that a bad beat on the Stars? And you're like, yes, but like we actually just kind of call that hockey. And it's funny that you mentioned the underdogs and overtime. Yeah, 100%. I'm dying for overtime if I've got an underdog, which I pretty much always do because I understand the level of sort of chaos that's going on out there. But think about it this way. Like they went to overtime. They went to 4-on-4 overtime a few years ago. And they were like, not crazy enough for us. Let's fill it up again here and go 3-on-3 overtime. Let's knock it down. And so like, yeah, you could do aggressive amounts of heroin when you're free time if you wanted to, or you can bet on the NHL regular season. Either one works for me.
Somebody's found one of my old tweets. I did tweet this out one time. I wanted 2 pucks in, like a bonus puck in overtime, 2 pucks in the ice at the same time. That's another tweet that like the hockey community is never behind my ideas. I wanted a tie. I'm like, we should just do a tie for this game in one of these playoff series. I was on the wrong side of the Knights Sharks series with that major.
Yeah,
a couple, was it 2 years back?
Yeah,
major penalty where
I was on the right side of that one, so I remember it quite well, and I apologize.
I just had a series price or like to win the West, I believe, and I was feeling like, oh, we're gonna get this done. This is happening, and then I had to ask someone, I'm like, how come they just never get their guy back? What's going on here? This is the worst. Like this is the worst feeling in the world. Like this is just watching like this is like watching your mother get beat up repeatedly. Like it's just why what is going on here?
And as they're scoring the goals, right? Like they're counting them, right? Like they're literally like, that's 1. And then it's like the power play keeps going. It's like, that's 2. And you're like, oh my God, these guys are maniacs. And yeah, that was a hockey highlight for me. But again, playoff hockey, that's where we shine.
Yeah.
So how's the season?
The year. Yeah, this year. Go ahead, Alex. I think you're.
I was gonna say, so how's the season gone so far? I mean, has it been dog heavy? Has it been favorite heavy? One of the other hockey guys I follow was tweeting out earlier that he started to see a lot more 5.5s from a total perspective. Has there been less goals this year? Kind of just some high level thoughts on how it's gone so far, and do you think it's going to continue that way?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the NHL, and speaking of the overtime switches, right? Like no league is less satisfied with their product, but will tell you how great their product is than the NHL, right? Like it's a constant change. And so whether it's overtime, offside, review stuff, like how we're going going to call penalties, all of that kind of thing. So when the season started, we went full like juiced ball era style thing where we're calling everything in sight. We want goals. We want people to get excited about hockey again. Apparently they weren't aware that the NFL and, basketball and whatnot were still happening. So that was never really going to be in the cards. And then everybody who cares about hockey is like, hey, this kind of sucks. Like, stop calling everything. Like, goals aren't that important to us. And so numbers that were, totals that were 6.5 early on in the season, they were like, okay, we'll stop it. We'll stop calling every little thing. And now you're seeing the goal numbers drop, and of course the totals drop with it, and that sort of thing. So that's really been the big shift here in all of 20 games, but it's like a faucet where they can turn it on and off like that and change how, it's kind of set up as a sport, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah. I think we knew we were going to get maybe not weird results, but maybe weird results over a decent sample just based on, hey, you're only going to play these teams. Like, your schedule is, with anyone who doesn't know how they did it, they divided it out into the divisions. You only play interdivision games. So you're going to play the same teams over and over. That'll be something I'd be interested in later in the season. Like, all right, you faced this team a shitload of times, like what's way more than usual, or, a team that you wouldn't face this many times that maybe wasn't in your normal division, conference, what have you. And what's going to happen once this team is so familiar with your play, or I don't even know if that matters.
Well, that's the thing, right? And how does it matter? Because we're not talking about basketball or football where it's like, okay, you can see the matchups, right? Certain matchups like Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Tampa Bay just had a really good matchup against Green Bay for you can get deeper into football reasons for that. But it's because, plays exist and we stop and we call these plays and we look for different matchups and all of that kind of thing. Not really the case with hockey. And so why does Ottawa play Montreal particularly well? I don't really know. It does. There isn't really they actually are really good at stopping their wide receivers or stopping their wingers. That's not really a thing in hockey because of the general chaos and all of that. And so from a betting standpoint, thank you for mentioning that, the back-to-back nature, right? So basically, with a few exceptions here and there, especially geographically when it comes to the North Division, we're doing these 2 games at a time type situation. So from a betting standpoint, because everything is so tight, and that's the other thing about the NHL and hockey in general, everything is so tight, you're not going to have sort of the version of a 17.5 point favorite in football. That just doesn't really exist. And so because it's so tight like that, you can get a matchup. So for instance, tonight we're seeing the front end of a couple of back-to-backs. Chicago and Tampa Bay is a pretty good example, where Chicago plus 185 plus 190, something along those lines, you can bet them tonight, hope they win. And if not, you can bet it again tomorrow. And you're just looking for a split here to make your money, which is a little bit more likely to happen when they're playing back to back, because you may get Curtis McElhinney, which is the backup goaltender for Tampa Bay tomorrow, or maybe even tonight. By the way, the goaltending announcement thing is a complete other story.
Yeah,
and so
I bet NBA. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's true. Good point. But you're just going, okay, grab 1 out of 2 and we'll get out of here with a profit. I've been doing that a lot with the Detroit Red Wings, who play an incredibly defensive style of hockey. And so they're going to play a ton of 2-1, 3-2 type games, but they've been pretty good about getting 1 out of 2. Now, ideally, you want the first one, so you don't even have to bet the second one, but it is what it is.
No, I get what you're saying there. And yeah, it is. I thought I'd try to get into it more this year. I just haven't had the time yet, but I am excited for once we do get to playoffs, and I wish my team were better. My team hasn't been good in a while. I don't really have I guess I do have a team. I always say this in the other sports where I say I'm not a huge Vikings fan anymore because I bet the NFL so much and it helps. And, I don't bet, and I don't bet baseball terrible much. I'll tag along with some people or look for some really good bets from some people who actually do bet it. But I like the Twins. So I guess I do have some allegiance to the Wild since I don't really bet NHL. But it's been a while. It's been a decade since I went to a game. So maybe I'll have to. I don't even know if they're letting people in right now. So nothing about saying I should go to a game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you're even able to go at this point, because
maybe if they go play in Texas.
Yeah, we can't at all in Canada, and I don't know if these two things are related, but we also haven't had a game postponed in the North Division this season. So, I don't know, I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know if you're even allowed to go. At this point, probably 10 to 15%.
Maybe luxury boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're starting to like what the Knicks did, where they're opening up some of the box seats or which is, bang for your buck. If you're going to let people in, might as well let the people in that are paying, $3,000 a pop to come sit there at the Garden. So, and before we let you go, I did want to mention Mr. Russell here is a featured content provider on BetSperts now. He's somebody who, we'd met through his work. Drew had been on the podcast earlier. Like I said, I'd made an appearance a few weeks back. We liked some of your stuff. So you can find everything you're doing now getting posted up on the new content side on the BetSperts website, soon to be on the app in a few weeks. And then just, again, before we let you go, where else can people find you on Twitter, other social, and your podcast?
Yeah, the Window podcast. Just type in the Window Sports Betting. You'll find it anywhere you find your podcast, but more sort of relevantly, at MRuss Authentic on Twitter, MRUSS for the name, Authentic, as we say, for keeping it real. And as far as BetSperts is concerned, the _window_ podcast is my content page over there. Do you guys want some bets for tonight for the NHL, or are we just not even doing picks? What's the situation?
Oh, we're gonna once we cut you loose,
something.
we're gonna do our basketball picks. You might as well give me your best hockey one before you go.
Only the winners, though. No losers.
Yeah, just no losers.
Oh, well,
and
so here's
maybe an over.
So fundamentally, here's the problem. And if anybody out there bets baseball, it's like we need a big sample size, because when we're betting money lines and underdogs and that sort of thing, like to just give you one game or
give me all of them then.
It's like, well, we're probably
That's true. You could pick every game.
Right. And so, that's exactly it. And so I specialize on the podcast in the North and Central divisions because, Andy and I talked about college basketball when he was on my podcast. And, Andy's like, I don't really bet the big conferences. I just bet the smaller conferences because, they don't really intertwine unless for some reason UTEP is playing Kansas. And so for me, North Division is its own little league. Central Division is its own little league. And so we have literally 7 games tonight in those divisions, right? So it's just completely rip-roaring insane. I'm going to walk in front of a train here with sort of the best pick of the night. The Toronto Maple Leafs right now are basically absolutely, quote-unquote, on fire. People love them. It's insane here in the city. If you could see other people in the city, which you can't because I haven't seen anybody else in like a year, basically. They have one of the worst scheduling spots that you can have in this new COVID era, where they played last night on the road, are traveling, and then playing again tonight. Now, I talked about the different back-to-backs. Well, yeah, a lot of these teams are playing back-to-backs, but they're playing each other back-to-back, so it doesn't really become a thing. Only 3 times this season has a team been sitting at home watching the night before their opponent play, and then have that opponent come to them the following night. In each one of those situations, combined, expected goals for was like 58% for the home team. They ended up going 2-1, but that's because the Ottawa Senators blew it against the Jets in the first opportunity. They were the much better team, gave up a late goal with the goalie pulled, lost in the coin flip overtime. It was a whole thing. Tonight, Vancouver has been sitting at home waiting and watching Toronto just play 3 games with Edmonton. Vancouver should be, according to sort of my numbers here, about a 120, let's say, plus 120 underdog. And that's about right where the market is right now. I'm hoping to see some Toronto steam, which there basically always is, get it up to about plus 135, so that not only is it a spot play from that situation, it's also a value play, being sort of over 3% edge to my model. So plus 135 is what we're hoping for. I think there's going to be a lot of surprised people here when Vancouver, who frankly just does whatever they can do to lose games. They've actually played really well. They're 4-6 in their last 10 at home, even though they've been dominant in that expected goals for category. So basically, we've got Toronto, who's been quote unquote lucky, if you will, good as well, but like not this good, and Vancouver, who's been like not good, but also not lucky at all. And so we're sort of having a lot of things kind of combine here. And I think Vancouver is a sneaky play here tonight. If you want something a little more safe, a favorite, if you will, you can get Montreal minus 140 in a lot of places right now against Winnipeg. They just lost 2 straight against Winnipeg that they shouldn't have lost either one of them, to be completely honest with you, from, again, an expected goals for and high danger chance level even strength, right? One of them was an overtime game. One was a game where they blew a 2-0 lead early on. They've just fired the coach. They've had a few days off here, and now it's go time here for Montreal, right? This is a team that a lot of people liked coming into the season. From a metric standpoint, they actually rate better at even strength right now than Toronto. But because their power play has been so shoddy, they fired the guy running that too. They haven't been getting the same results that they were hoping to get this season. And so I think minus 140 is a pretty good price. My numbers make it minus 154. So you're getting good value. I think it's a decent spot here for Montreal. That's the favorite that I would roll with. And again, the sneaky underdog is Vancouver. And then honestly, there's a lot of other underdogs out there the only game I'm not playing is Dallas Columbus tonight because my numbers are identical and I don't really want anything to do with either of those teams. But the other underdogs in the Central, really big underdogs, I'm just hoping one of those hit. Maybe we get 2 of them, but I think they're all pretty good plays relative to their price.
Cool. Appreciate it. Yeah. I might bet on hockey tonight. I don't know. I'm probably going to take some Vancouver. So
a big dog round robin.
Again, yes. And thank you again for your time and for hopping on with us. Again, Matt Russell from the Window Podcast. And you can find his stuff also on BetSperts on the content side. So thanks a lot, Matt. And you, and good luck tonight in all your hockey, and not just tonight, every night in your hockey betting. So we appreciate that. And, you have a good afternoon. We'll get on to our basketball. Thanks.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it.
See you, Matt.
I only have one basketball
you want to go first?
pick.
Or you want me to
go mine first? Is like, I got a lot of time. This is one of those where there's games. I think there's a game going on right now, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So I went and looked. I'm like, oh, man, is my game going to be an early game? And then I looked. My game is literally like at 9:30 tonight. Like Central. This is like, Richmond and Duquesne are playing. I have a Richmond future, so God bless the Spiders. Hopefully they can keep it up. But just Eastern Kentucky -1. I put a future on them to win in their conference as well. This has got steamed against. This is like 2.5, I think, early this morning. So I got it at a pick 'em at some places. I'm happy with that. So this game is legitimately maybe the last one. It is not the last one of the night. I think the West Coast Conference is going to play Portland, Santa Clara at like fucking midnight. So just one for me today. And I didn't have any yesterday, so that's more than I was yesterday.
Let's jump into the association. I will kind of blow the lead here a little bit. Unfortunately, we're not going to have any tennis. If you want something, there's a match going on right now. Caroline Garcia's down a break. Let me see if she's down 2 breaks yet. It would be a small play. I think she definitely has a chance to fight back in this match. So if you're looking for a little tennis action right now, go see if you can find some Caroline Garcia live. But we'll jump into the association. It is the last night before All-Star break. So be careful tonight. Make sure you're looking to bet overs. This is generally a terrible night for unders. So to spoil another thing, Andy, there won't be an under today.
No.
And look for teams that are healthy, that don't have any injury questions, no questionables, not even really any probables. There's going to be some goofy stuff tonight. And look for teams that still have stuff to play for. So with that in mind, we're going to start with the Wizards of Washington here. They have the Clippers. They're hosting the Clippers tonight. Again, Clippers' last game on the road before the All-Star break. Kawhi Leonard, I believe, is questionable. Might have been probable earlier here, but I think there's a good chance he misses. And even if he doesn't, Washington has been a great team covering late in the fourth quarter, basically running and being aggressive against teams that aren't quite ready for kind of the pace and some of the shooting that they're able to bring. So I make this Clippers -3. Without Kawhi. With Kawhi, I have a Clippers -5. Either way, I like the situational spot kind of on top of that. So I'm going to take the Wizards +6, Andy.
I like a good underdog, especially in a weird spot like this. And if he misses, even better. Even better.
Sticking with the theme, we've got another +6. The Memphis Grizzlies are hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee really struggling here, trying to reintegrate Jrue Holiday. Memphis really starting to put it together here. I think they're going to be a nice team, really surge kind of in the second half here. As I start to look at my numbers here, I have the Bucks as only like a 3.5, 4-point favorite here. So again, I'm looking for home teams. Memphis absolutely needs to win this game to kind of hold on to some of their playoff positioning here. I expect them to play their absolute hearts out here. And again, like my numbers like it as well. So quantitative and qualitative things pointing in that direction.
Picked up a nice win the other day against a tired-ass team, but
I saw this. Derrick Rose, yes. If Derrick Rose plays, the Knicks game becomes a lot different. We saw the other night how much Derrick Rose matters to them, but I like that, Clint. If Derrick Rose is playing, the Knicks have been a great first-half team this year, so that's a solid look. I do have one more look. It is a total. It's not an under, Andy. It's an over.
No, it's before the All-Star break. You'd be a lunatic.
Sacramento has been, I think, the best under team. I'm looking right now at my little sheet. I don't have everybody, just the teams playing tonight. But if you blindly bet Sacramento overs, you'd be up 10.8 units this year. Portland, another team, you're up a couple units there betting the overs. We'll have some help from the officials on the floor here, I think, tonight. As I look at the three guys, or actually I didn't know if they were men and women, but the three people that'll be running up and down with whistles in their mouths. Looks like they like overs here. So a lot of things, pointing me towards the over here. Again, I then look at my numbers. I make this 238.5, almost 239. So would play this at 236.5, even 237. Again, a small edge in my model and a lot of other kind of qualitative things, if you will, pushing me in that direction. So that's it for me.
Dig it. All right. Well, enjoy those. And then, and somebody says I played the under in the Suns game. I'm a lunatic. Maybe. We'll see how that one goes. Some of those.
If you want to buy out, maybe like a Phoenix team total over or something.
Or
I don't know what Golden State's going to look like after falling apart last night.
Maybe you have a cold first half and you can buy out at and the Atlantic Sun preview is 99% done. It'll be out within the next half hour. I will tweet that. You can look for that immediately. So enjoy the rest of the Richmond game, and then there's, UMass St. Joe's at noon. There's games all afternoon. So enjoy that. We'll be back tomorrow for a nice Friday edition, and we'll catch you then.